Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay McElmont, and my presentation is about the incarceration of women with mental health issues. So basically just a little bit of background. Incarceration in the United States has greatly increased over the past few decades, especially for women. And of these incarcerated women, a large majority of them have some type of mental health issue, usually seen in the form of depression or substance abuse. And then while in prison, a lot of these women with mental health issues seem to be the most negatively affected and are also oftentimes deprived of the treatment that they need to help them get better. So my critique for this project focuses on women in general kind of not being focused on the prison system, and also how women with mental health issues are especially vulnerable there. So here's some quick facts about that. Incarcerated women with mental health issues are more likely to do all of the following: have a longer term in prison, get arrested again, be verbally or sexually abused in prison, be contained in solitary confinement, commit suicide in prison, suffer from substance abuse or addiction, and have previously been violently or sexually assaulted sometime in their life. And the prison conditions are just not suitable to help these women that are already affected by mental health issues. They're not suitable to help them improve themselves or their lives. And most of these women are in prison for very minor non-violent crimes, such as just drug-related crimes. And prisons just don't provide sufficient mental health care to most inmates, whether that means not providing the right medicine or the right treatment, or not providing the right counselors or support system that these women need to really get back on their feet. And so there are many more people suffering from mental health conditions in prison than there are in actual mental health rehabilitation facilities. And my vision for the project is, starts with not sending women with mental health issues, including substance abuse, to prisons, especially when they're only committing a small infraction. I see that there should be different types of correctional facilities opened up that can just specialize in rehabilitation for these women. Many of these women have already suffered from a lot in the past, their mental health issues and incidences of sexual violence and domestic abuse, drug addiction. And they really need a unique care system to provide for their needs. So I imagine in these care facilities, in my vision, that there are women counselors who are really specially employed to mentor and support these women in a Alcohol Anonymous type of group. So these are just people who have been specifically trained for this, who aren't going to judge these women, who are really going to show them love and support that they sometimes probably don't get in their own lives. They're going to be encouraged by these people, and see them as friendly rather than threats. These people aren't going to judge them and see them as criminals, but rather they're going to see them as real human beings. And also possibly the older residents that have been there longer maybe could serve as mentors to the residents who just come in, just kind of serving because they do know what these girls have gone through, and kind of passing down their skills and passing down their knowledge and not judging because they went through the same thing on their own, just being there for support. The women should be able to show love and empathy and compassion. Well, they should also have more independence and privacy than in a regular prison, just to maintain their sense of self instead of being treated like a secondhand person. These women should also have health care that they need with a nurse on site, and then permission to be sent out to other healthcare facilities if needed. They should be able to partake in therapy, such as training animals or doing service or crafting, just to be able to express some of their emotions. Being able to have shorter terms if they're improving, and then having services for them to help reestablish themselves when they get in the outside world. Sometimes that's just hard for people with hard mental health issues in general, is just taking care of themselves in society. So having services that can help them shop for clothes for work, or help them find an apartment, or childcare, or just help getting a job. Things that people can dedicate their time to helping these women do that. And then there should also be support groups, so people can follow up and get in a community where they feel safe and they feel that people there are going to understand them and understand what they go through, and help bring them back to like healthy lifestyle. And then my media shows these through. So my drawing on the left side, it shows like a woman who looks very hopeless, and she's just kind of looking out beyond her reach at like the care that she could have, like the medicine she could have, the counseling she could have, like the support she could have, and it's like just not there. And the side's in black and white to kind of show that critique part of it and the sadness there. And then the right side is the same woman, and she has like what she needs, like she like kind of strips out of her prison uniform, like so she has more freedoms. She has like another woman there to support her, to help her through this. She has medicine if she needs it, and it's just like it's in color. It's a lot more bright, a lot more loving. Like there's hearts around it. It just shows like a very loving community and a very loving perspective. And then in my infographic, the critique is shown through the statistics. Just kind of like statistics as to what kind of mentioned earlier, like why this is a problem and why women with mental health, especially in prison, are suffering, and why like there needs to be change. And then the vision is shown at the end. I put in like some foundations that are working on these type of issues, just kind of show like hope that there are people working to make this better. And you can like learn more about it. So promoting awareness is in like, if you want to learn more about the cause, go here. So relating this back to the literature, so my literature review focused a lot on the use of personal narrative, and the two authors that I put a lot of emphasis on were Menchu with her personal narrative about like her life and her struggles with the government, and then Pizarro and her story of One Way, like a fictional story. But both of these stories are stories of strong characters facing colonialism and oppression, and these stories like help use storytelling to make other people aware of it. So I personally don't have any experience of being in prison, so I can't really tell a personal narrative, but I've researched some stories of other women with mental health issues that have gotten incarcerated, and I'm combining these stories to make a fictional narrative of sorts in my drawing, kind of telling like a story through pictures. And then my infographic is a little less like a narrative, but it helps sets the background story for the artistic narrative. While I wanted my drawing to reflect a fictional narrative, I really focused on the loving perspective that's discussed in Mariana Ortega's Being Lovingly, Knowingly Ignorant, White Feminism and Women of Color, and I use that as the basis of my vision for that part of the drawing. So while I do have firsthand experience with mental health issues, I've never been to prison, like I said, and I can't even begin to try to know what being in prison would be like with no treatment or support. And because of this, I tried to apply Ortega's loving perspective, which is described as a perspective that does not require the perceiver to disappear, but instead, the loving perceiver is required to know what are one's interests, desires, and loathings, one's projects, hungers, fears, wishes, and that one know what is and what isn't determined by these. And I wanted to capture a vision in which these women are currently being incarcerated, are being embraced with loving people who will empathize with them and support them with the only motive of just helping a fellow female sister get through a hard time with no judgment. My infographic, on the other hand, uses a style similar to the documentary that we watched earlier this semester, 13. 13 uses a lot of statistics and infographics to educate the viewers of the corruption of the American prison system. While 13 focuses almost entirely on men in prison, I wanted to apply this style to women in prison. So because the majority of prisoners are men, women often get overlooked in this respect, especially those with mental health issues, because that's kind of a group that's overlooked a lot in society. And I'm using these visual statistics to show people that the prison system is corrupt for women too. And I wanted to bring attention and awareness that just because women aren't the majority that suffer, their experience are oftentimes worse. For example, in the movie La Hala de Ora and Anzaldua's The Homeland Aztlan, it can be seen that when caught at the hands of corrupt law or corrupt people, both which inhabit the prison system. Their consequences can be much worse than that of men. They also suffer at the hands of rape, physical and verbal abuse, and men are not as much subject to that. And then finally, at the end of my infographic, I list resources about the positives that can be done in this. So overall, I hope that my project can educate and create both emotional and knowledge-based awareness for this injustice of sending women with mental health issues to prison and set up a center better equipped to provide them with the treatment they need to rehabilitate. And then the questions that I have for my group are, one, do you think that adding the different organizations at the end of my infographic shows my vision well, or does it need more explanation? And then the second question would be, while I still have some white space on my drawing, I'm wondering if I should add some quotes about my vision to that, most likely from Ortega's work. Thank you guys so much.